Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. So this is part 7 of my grain facility scene here. And as you can see, things always get much, much worse before they get better. So I've created a little bit of a mess here. But for good reason. I'm doing a lot. And, when I build these scenes, at least I don't know if that's just me or what, but I like to kind of generally build and not specifically build. So I do a little bit of one thing, then I shift over to another thing, then I kind of build it all in like a big crescendo, so that I don't just build one thing and then I have everything else not knowing what really is going to happen. And since I don't have a hard and fast plan here, I'm just kind of going. I have a general idea, but I'm just kind of going by what I see as it develops. So let me show you what I've been doing thus far. So the last time we met, I was working on getting this track to look kind of banged up with painting the ties and making sure that the ties weren't all perfectly brown. So I achieved that, at least in my opinion. Let's get a little closer here. So two things I wanted to establish here. One is the different color ties, and another thing was the ballast and dirt and whatever is around the track kind of uneven. So like maybe some ballast got on top of the track, the ties, and same thing with dirt and maybe a little grass that's growing and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I'm going for there, and I kind of like the results so far. I mean, I'm still going to add more like greenish foam here and there, and also static grass, like so that random spots where they haven't maintained anything is just kind of growing. But generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with how this is coming out. Right, so I did this intentionally. I didn't want this to be like perfect. So I put a little dirt kind of coming up the side there. Everything you see here is definitely intentional. It's not like a mistake. The only thing I'm not crazy about, and I'm kind of like living with it to see if I end up liking it later, but I tried to make the spur look like they had just put ballast or recently put ballast on it. And you know how sometimes when companies put ballast on their tracks, they don't actually like go and push it into the ties. It just kind of sits on top of the tracks. That's kind of like what I was going for. I don't know if I like it because it looks a little like caked on there rather than just kind of sitting on there. Because I guess the glue kind of gives it that feel. But it's not terrible. I definitely want to dull it down a little bit with like chalks or maybe even a little grout powder. Just kind of like get it a little darker because it looks like extremely clean. So that's the only thing I'm not crazy about. This I'm not done with yet. I just didn't want to. I don't like messing with the switches or the turnouts too much until I'm ready to like really seal it in. So I do want to bring the ballast level up a little bit here because you can see the difference, right? You can see the ballast is very low there. So I want to bring it up like the way it is in here, where it's definitely you can see it from the side. Otherwise, you can only see it from the top like that. So that's number one. So everything right now is cemented in, with the scenic cement. And like I said, it's going to take probably a few more layers of kind of like fine details. And also, I'm going to paint the sides of the rails like an iron oxide kind of color to make it look really rusty. And I might even hit it with like a little powder, like a little rusty powder on like along the track to make it look like the rust kind of trickled down into the ballast and ties and stuff. So the other part that I did, is the way I'm saying that I kind of work around the entire scene, is that I created this hill here because that's what I kind of wanted to happen, where the track on top of or in the back here is forced back by adding a retaining wall, which by the way is also new. So this it's still wet. I literally just put it in. I just took some masonite that I had left over, like one of those strips that I made for you know, for the spline, like there. So I just took an extra one and just put it next to the spline to give it a little bit more surface area there, and also to make it look like a concrete wall. So from here to there, it's going to be concrete, and then from that point around, it's going to be those wood, kind of like it's actually like wood ties, retaining wall there. I don't know why this camera is not focusing as well as usual. But anyways, once this dries, I'm going to rough it up a little bit. I'm definitely going to, you know, make it look very filthy with washes and stuff like that. And then over here, it'll be green dirt, or, you know, like more like that kind of thing. So like a lot of green and some browns and some things like that. But what ended up happening was that I wanted this to look more like a hill, right, where the track is naturally sitting on this hill. But then as I got closer to the turnout here, it got a little too steep. So what I did is I had some extra rock molds here. I just added those there. So I think once I add the color of the rock against the green on top, it'll look really nice. And it'll look like, you know, there was potentially a lot of rock here and they cut it out, right? There's like a rock cut there. So not sure what I'm going to do from that point on, because I got to get real close to the track once again and then meet that abutment over there. So I'm kind of playing with it, trying to figure out what to do. But that's basically it. So yeah, I'm kind of working from this point all the way through, obviously, to over there. Right? This whole thing is kind of coming together at the same time. And you know, you got to be careful, because as you go through certain sections, you start kind of boxing yourself in. So I got to be careful not to do too much here, and then I can't get to the back there. So one of the things I'm trying to figure out is what I'm going to put in the background here. If it's going to be a photo backdrop, or if it's going to be this thing that I had in place, which is it's just kind of like a hillside that I'm going to shove back there. I have some room back there. And then, or a combination of both, where I have that and then I have the photo backdrop behind it to give it more distance. But, you know, I got to kind of just figure all that out. And then also I got to paint the track. I got to, you know, add the extra ties. I have to hit it with my camouflage paint and then start painting the rails and ballast and all that stuff before I start getting too involved here. But once again, I needed to do this so I can get an idea of what's going to happen in the back as well. When I did this, you can kind of see the silos right here. I left the structures in place because I wanted to see exactly where that was going to land with the tunnel and all that, right? So by putting the buildings in place, I was able to then push the ballast right up against it, right? And once I hit it with the cement, with the Scenic Cements, it held the shape. And then so all I had to do was pull the buildings off this morning once it dried. And now I know exactly where they need to be. So when I put them back, it's almost like a form for them to fit into. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'm a little bummed out that I can't use my main here, because there's no point in like wasting all this tape again and remassing it. But the nice thing about this particular layout is that I have another main anyway. It's like another railroad running up and down the back there. So I don't need to use this loop until I'm done with the scene. And I can still run trains, as you see here, and kind of keep my mind occupied while I wait for things to dry and while I brainstorm on what I'm going to do. So that's basically it for this update. I'm going to try and get a little bit more accomplished. I have a pretty busy week this week, so I don't know how much I can get done, but I'll do the best I can. But until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.